Okay, so we're back with another day of coding here. So I just got up, so this is going to be not too much in this video. We'll cover some more in the next video I'll make today. For the moment, we're just going to really quickly reiterate on what we've done in the last video. So I worked on sentry guns. I've got them actually shooting and doing damage and consuming ammo, although they're not reloading constantly. What we're going to do is we're going to make them actually consume ammo properly. So that should be a really easy one-line change. I just have to go find the class file here. A few other things I need to change too. I forgot to do with the supposition to reset search area. Amazingly, I realized this in the middle of a dream. It's the weirdest thing ever, and I was told this by a colleague when I worked back in a factory. He was a mechanical engineer. He was doing the same job I was doing. I was doing electronic repair, which required no degree or anything, and he was doing the same job as me. But he always told me the longer you do a job, the more you do it, the more passionate you get about the job, the more it affects every other aspect of your life, including your dreams. So, as he noted, when I was working there, I would start dreaming in parts, but that never actually happened. But what has happened over the last several years of me coding is you start to dream in your work. You start to see your code, you start to see what mistakes you've made, you start to see what you can change and manipulate and redirect. And it's not like what some people think and you dream in binary, you dream in lines of code. It's not like that. It's you dream in actions and reactions. You dream in things that you would normally do if you were awake, but because you're asleep, you can see it in a different way because your brain's not processing things normally. When your brain doesn't process things normally, you get some weird abstract thought process, and you can put pieces together that didn't normally look like they went together. You also, of course, see mistakes. Like I saw the mistake that I needed to change the search area here. There was a couple other ones I saw that I'm having trouble remembering. Unfortunately, the downside with dreams is you're only going to take away 3 or 4 things from it, and the rest you're going to lose. Because after all, your memory side of your brain's not turned on, and you lost everything. There was a lot with is validation of target, but that was me remembering, not so much dreaming to think of new things, but remembering how I used to do the targeting systems for sentry guns. After all, I'm not actually looking at the old code for this. Even though I wrote the original sentry guns for ICBM, I decided when I went to go make these again, I'm just going to rewrite from scratch. Not the brightest thing to do because I did add a lot of nice improvements to the old sentry guns. There was a lot of things that were implemented that fixed certain behavior things. Latency is a really big issue with the old sentry guns, and I'm hoping to avoid that with the new ones, where the search patterns, the very process of it looking for things to kill, actually does end up taking a bit of bandwidth. But we put some ammo in here, and it's searching for targets. It does have a prioritization on distance. One thing I did remember I need to add is a prioritization on rotation. So the amount of time it will take to grab that target is actually a priority. That's something that needs to be sorted. We may hit that up today because that's not too hard to do. That's literally like get current aim, get new aim, and mathematically calculate the distance between the two. Oh man, that thing's just messing that up. There's no rate of fire limit. That's something we do need to implement. That one's actually pretty easy. Actually, I think it might already be handled. Last fired. Yeah, it's already handled. What's not happening is the sentry gun's just firing this little debug laser constantly. We'll move the debug laser away from the sentry gun class into the weapon class again, and we'll make a secondary debug, which is called do ray trace action debug. So we already have a debug that if I can show this real quick for those that have not seen all my videos. I misplaced where the armor. Oh, it's right here. So if I pull out a gun and I hit the grave key, I get a debug. The blue line is what is actually ray tracing to detect for impact. The red line is where the projectile is going to travel to. and this is the exact path that gets fired. I have no ammo, of course, so I can't actually fire, and it doesn't line up with the gun item because it's expected that there will be a 3D model for the gun. This is the reason why we actually emit smoke particles when we fire the gun, and rather than a smoke trail, because the trail won't match up with the gun properly. It is easy to fix, but these lasers will give us a really good guide path, and they can be turned on and off with the grave key. For the Sentry guns, we want to do the same exact thing. We want to be able to toggle debug on and off for them, but we want to toggle it in the gun class so we can recycle that code over and over again. After all, as I mentioned in the last video, I don't want to be making a whole bunch of custom objects for each individual entity that we give a weapon. So if we give a zombie a weapon, give a skeleton weapon, a player, a sentry gun, a minecart, I want them to all use the same gun data and all the same gun objects. All we have to do is do special modifications to the existing gun structure to make it work, or extend it in some cases. I'm okay with extending the gun object in order to make it work for a zombie, for example. That's something we may actually do in order to get them to work, because they don't have inventories, so that means them having ammo is not going to happen. And that will actually take some special handling. In reality, what we may end up doing for them is just making a custom entity that looks like a skeleton, but actually is not a skeleton. This is what I do for things like the slime rain and ICBM. Those are not normal slimes, they're actually customized. Even though I know I could easily have added extra MBT data to a slime and then used event triggers to make it look like it, I decided it would be easier just to make a custom slime. After all, I do want to do more behavior because the rain slimes are geared after the Terraria rain slimes, which means I do want to do the king slime eventually. But yeah, the Sentry gun's working pretty good. We got to do some more things. I got to get the debug for the render box. So this render box right here, I need to go figure out where that code is, and I need to make that show up constantly while we're in debug mode, because we need to center this gun to center of mass, so that way it matches more precisely. Although, once again, what I said is we're going to use the entity as a hitbox for the Sentry gun and not actually the Sentry gun. But that does mean we need to work on a few things. We need to work on making sure the size is correct. We need to work on making sure the render code matches up. There's a few other things that have to be handled properly. But for the moment, this is doing its job. It is, I think, consuming ammo. Oh, we didn't reload. Okay, so I am going to break you and place you back down. We got to work on the upgrade system. That's going to be a really huge thing that has to be done. That's one of the many things people loved out of the old Sentry guns, is that they were upgradable. Okay, it looks like it is consuming ammo. It consumed a clip. We got the item ejection system is already done. So for those who are like, oh, you could do case ejection, it's already there. It's just we don't have a case item. I can actually show where this code is in the actual gun really quick. So if I go here, this entire section right here handles ejection of rounds. So any type of material waste you want to have. So this is not exclusive to just dropping casings. If, for example, you were using a black powder weapon and you wanted to drop like burnt powder or like that little wadding rag that was in the front, for shotgun shells, not only is there a shotgun shell ejected, there actually is a little piece of plastic that is comes out of the front of the weapon that actually handles the shot cup. Oh, look at that. It's actually dropping the empty clips because there's nowhere in the inventory for it to go, so it's going to just eject them. Because if we open the inventory, yeah, there's nothing in here. We do need to give it an extra inventory slot. We'll handle that here in a bit. And it will procedurally do the GUIs, so that way we can have expandable inventories. After all, I want to do a large variety of Sentry guns. I want to do upgrades for them. Part of the upgrades would be increased inventory space, but the Sentry gun itself should have limited space because after all there's going to be a platform up below it. So if I actually get out, we'll use the interdiction matrix really quick to demonstrate this. So if we have this, how you're going to do it is you're going to place the Sentry gun on the top of a box. That box itself is going to handle everything for your Sentry gun. The Sentry gun itself is just going to be a portable machine that has very limited space, very limited power, very limited everything. By putting it on a base, I'm not only going to give you power and storage, I'm actually going to probably make the Sentry gun function better. It's going to get like a faster targeting system, and we'll say this will be in lore, you attached it to a hydraulic pump inside the machine and it gave it an increased speed. The base will also end up giving you more upgrade slots too, so it'll interact. But that being said, some of the Sentry guns will be designed to allow it to ignore the base completely. So if you make a portable Sentry gun, like say you made the TF2 Sentry gun. The TF2 Sentry gun, there's no sense of it interacting with a base. So you could program and say, let the base pass me energy in items, but I don't care about the rest of it. So you ignore all the upgrade slots from it. And this will be indicated via, we'll have a same system like Harry, see how these slots have colors, and you can change the color. It'll go green if the upgrade slots are apply, it'll go red if the upgrade slots apply, and this will be per upgrade you stick in here. So if you had upgrades in here and you switch the turrets and those upgrades no longer apply to the turret above it, we'll colorize them and we'll do things like that. At least I think I'll colorize them. When I go to implement, I'll probably forget that I even said this, and we'll probably end up using the ban icon from ICBM. So if I go and I pull up the ICBM, I don't have the mod in here. The ICBM AMS turret has a circle with a dash going through it to indicate that when you stick ammo into the turret that isn't valid, it doesn't work. Of course, when we go to do these, we're going to actually check what you stick in the slots, so that way you can't stick junk in the slots. Okay, this thing's out of ammo. This thing is... oh, well, this thing has ammo. So I'm not sure what we're going to start with today. We got the ammo consumption going. Additional slots would be a good start, I guess. So we're going to close this, and we'll do that, and then I'll end the video out, because I got to still eat breakfast and do a few other things before I actually commit to a workload today. So we don't need NED base, we don't need that, we don't need that. We really don't need the gun instance, it's pretty good to go. Actually, we do need the gun instance. We want to move this code here, and we want to put it here. No, actually, we can fire this code off here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make a secondary method. Public boolean do debug on this gun. So that way we have a global and we have a local. And we just need to document these two. It enables ray trace debug on all weapons. And then enables ray trace debug on this weapon only. This is the only one that'll work server side. This one is a client side only logic, by the way. Okay, so that's good. The thing to note also with the debug here is it kind of has to be triggered. That's something we didn't actually note on the thing up there, which we probably should have. So what we're going to do is we'll run debug ray trace from the Sentry gun. And we just got to find a spot in the NED here. And what we'll do, and we'll just go down into here and we'll run it this way. We'll go gun instance, debug ray traces. And then we just need to, we also want to do this real quick. If gun instance dot has ammo. Right now the reload is instantaneous for this. There does need to be a reload tick, so we need to put a note here. To do add reload timer and delay. And then this is debug. Check if has ammo, then fire. And we need to put another thing down here. To do. So we need to actually keep track of how many ticks we've been firing our weapon, because this actually matters to the heat system for the weapon. If you've only been firing your gun for 1 tick, you've only get 1 tick of heat. But if you've been firing your gun for multiple ticks, the second tick won't be 2 ticks of heat. It may be 2.1 ticks of heat. The third tick may be 3.7 ticks of heat. It's not a linear increase, it's a logarithmic increase, which basically means you got a curve. So the longer you fire your weapon, the more heat your weapon generates, because it has nowhere to send that heat. At least it's what it is, in game terms, it's relatively that way. Realistically, it is a linear heat increase, but it's the way we're going to represent it to make sure that we're not doing complicated logic in order to get the heat system to function properly. The longer it also fires, the less likely it is to cool, the more likely it is to fail, the more likely it is to jam. So you fire a single round, the likelihood of jamming is real low. But if you're firing on full auto, the likelihood of jamming is really high. Especially because your weapon's going to get more and more dirty. Because there's going to be a tracker that'll track how dirty your weapon is. This will be for the hardcore players more than for the easy mode. So by default, dirt will be turned off. By default, heat will be reduced to almost nothing. The only time heat's going to come into play is for heavy, fully automatic weapons, so like your 50 cals and 20s. They will keep track of heat because they'll overheat and they'll fail. In easy mode, we'll probably just make the weapon go into a cooldown cycle and it won't function. But on medium and hard, medium the weapon will damage itself, hard the weapon could explode. And for those who say this isn't realistic, this actually is. This is where I got this from talking to military veterans and stuff. They've told me that this stuff does actually happen to weapons. You don't hear much stories about it because the military doesn't exactly share that kind of information that their weapons can explode. You don't exactly want to tell a new recruit that, oh, if you fire your weapon too much, it'll blow up. So we got this, we got the ray tracing going on. We do need to, in the gun instance, set to debug. So we're going to go right here. We're going to go with engine.running as dev. And then we're going to go gun instance dot do debug ray trace this gun equals true. We won't have a toggle on and off for this, so all the guns will run this ray trace debug. This does mean we got rid of our current debug, and this means in future we could toggle this on and off. By default, it's going to only run in debug mode because we want to make sure anything we're doing that shouldn't go in the live is done in debug, because after all, our builds actually push to curse nightly. So every single night there's a new build on curse. So at least that's how it's supposed to be, but the build servers are still being worked on. Eventually we'll get the build servers up online again. From what I'm told, they are functional-ish, but I think there's only 3 or 4 mods that are set to build right now. So we've got search area set up again. We do need to do an on-range change to get this part. We do need to get our selector. So I'm going to make a method really quick. Protected entity selector. Get entity selector. This is just going to be really quick housekeeping to do this, because we're going to need this later to set what monsters we can kill. So instead of just going, okay, I want to kill all monsters, I want to kill all players, I want to kill all this stuff, those options will be there, but then there'll be like a check mark where you can click, oh, okay, I clicked all the monster, and it'll show you all the monsters that are in the game, and it'll be like, oh, I don't want to shoot a creeper because he could blow up and blow my stuff up, so you decheck that box that marks, and that'll handle that. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good on here. There's not a lot of stuff we need to do. We do need to make this guy a little bigger. So we're gonna up him by a pixel in each direction, and that'll get us almost the same size we need to be. We do need to get him to be almost the same size as a full block by default. And then what we'll do is we'll have a global hitbox to detect that the entity was hit, and then we'll have a sub hitbox that'll go, okay, this is where you were hit at. And we'll treat anything that hits the global hitbox doesn't hit the sub hitbox as a deflection on the armor. That way we handle it appropriately, and we'll come through and we'll customize this and we'll handle it. We'll do sub hitboxes and we'll do a whole bunch of other things, and we'll make sure that vanilla Minecraft interacts with everything properly. But that'll be definitely for another day. For the moment, we need to do inventory saving. There's a thing I almost forgot to do. Okay, read from MBT. Actually, saving should already be done for the inventories. Hides an inventory. That's weird. I wonder why it's not saving the inventory then. Super.write. Probably because the Sentry data isn't loaded. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Sentry data isn't loaded. Um, so what we want to do in order to fix this is we want to pretty much initialize with a large inventory for loading. And then we'll come through and we'll reset the inventory. Or this is this is why the read tag is done secondary. So let's move our Sentry construct to a method. So we're gonna make a method down here, and this is a temporary thing, by the way. Load, so be public void load Sentry data. Okay, I got an email. Oh, cool. My professor finally posted the final exam. Oh, no, he did not. That's another student asking where the final exam is, because our final exam for this my web programming class is a take-home exam. You just kind of do it at home, and it's a good thing it is because it takes you like 10, 12 hours to do sometimes. Where were we at though? We want to go if Sentry equals null. And we may just continue to use this method because, well, it's pretty good actually. Okay, and Sentry data is set here. So we want to set our Sentry data down here as well. Which means our Sentry data will never be null, but our Sentry will be null. So we want to go right here. Sentry, oh no, that's the wrong method. I copied. We want this one. And we want to do this on both sides because we're going to do graphics here eventually, so. And the rest of this is the normal code. This is basically debug code, so to do remove. And we're going to split this into client and server logic eventually. Right now we're doing client and server logic both in the same class, and that's not the way it should be done. You can get away with it, of course. A lot of developers do both their server and client logic in the same class file. It's actually pretty normal and almost standard when it comes to Forge. But the appropriate way to do it, and the way that's recommended, especially by people like Lex, is to separate your server and client logic out as much as possible. So that way, client side you only have client logic, server side you only have server logic, and then your common, which will be in between, contains the reusable stuff. Yeah. And we're good, and everything that batters, what? I don't know what that is, so I'm deleting it. Okay, power drain, okay. We don't need to deal with any of that stuff. So inventory should now save and load properly because now we're setting the Sentry data. This was originally set via the item, but I got ahead of myself and I ended up deleting the item because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to use an item block for the Sentry guns. We're going to use an actual item. So I think the door does this. There's an item door, then there's an item block door, then there's a block door. You never get the item block door, but you can get the item door. And we're going to do that same behavior because it's about reusability rather than functionality. I could get away with using an item block, but then I have to now support two classes. I have to support an item block for the Sentry gun and an item for all the rest of the guns and stuff, and they both use the same code. The only difference would be is that the item would have placement code in it. That's not too much of an issue. Actually, we need this to be down here. I knew I was forgetting something. This is the reason I was stalling from launching, is that I was forgetting to do that. The rest of this does look good. We need to move some of the stuff around eventually. And we need to get bigger inventory. That's another reason why I was stalling there for a second. That has to be handled in the Sentry data. So we want to get the Sentry data, and I want to say we have 10 inventory slots. So we got 2 for battery. So we're going to start at 0, and we're going to go to 8, and we're going to leave the last 2. So no, we need to go to 7. So that'd be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's 8. Because the 0 place counts as your first place, and I usually forget about that. Even with being developing stuff for here 7 years, I always forget. Good there. So inventory slots. The thing is, this actually needs to be an int array of slot IDs to be the most flexible possible. And nah, we're not going to do it that way. The reason I'm not going to do it that way is because that's just going to take too much time. What we are going to do is set up an int array for the battery slots though. Battery n equals new int. And of course, by the way, these would have been loaded by the JSON system, but we're just creating them here to save some time. So this would be slot A. We may do batteries today. I'm not sure if we'll do that or not. It is a possibility. It's not, because it doesn't take too much work. The prefabs are done now. I actually have battery load code into Volt's engine. I've been avoiding adding it for a while because I just literally don't want to be messing with energy, let alone batteries, anytime soon. But people keep wanting energy for things, so batteries are coming. Almost every machine is going to have a battery slot now. Okay, let's see. Inventory size, cool. Start an in slot, so this will auto-update our inventory here. We just got to now procedurally program the GUIs. So we got to go find our containers. So, so we want to make a variable called slot ID and then set it to 0. And then we want to go slot ID plus plus. This is going to make life so much easier when it comes to making these GUIs. So battery slots, inventory slots, and then we're going to go for int x equals 0, x is less than 5, x plus plus. I'm going to do the y value here. Okay, so now we need to do it this way. So we need to figure out int rows is all I think we need, because columns are limited to 5. So rows would be inventory. Yeah, we need to rename this. I'm gonna get annoyed typing in inventory. So it'd be Sentry dot. I need the data. Why can't I access the data? Data is here, and it is. Need to make getters for this stuff. So Sentry data dot get, not inventory size. We want start minus Sentry data dot inventory end. This will get us our size. So we're actually going to set this to its own method. So we're going to int ammo bay size. Thinking of in terms of EVE Online now with ammo base. So ammo bay size divided by 5 is how we're going to do this. And this will get us the number of rows that we're going to have. And we may have to do a +1 on this, because if we get 26 divided by 5, Yeah, well, we need a +1. Because 26 divided by 5 will hit 5 rows, but technically we need 6 rows because we'll have an extra slot at the bottom there. For the moment, though, we're going to do this via the saying we have 5 columns and infinite number of rows. The reality of this, we would have a limited number of potential rows with a scroll bar to show multiple rows, and this is actually real easy to do, by the way. I actually figured out how to do it a while ago. You literally just reset this GUI every couple of minutes. But we would want to theoretically modify the columns, and this would be done via JSON, of course. So somebody would actually have made the GUI for this via a JSON file to go, okay, here's my Sentry gun, here's this GUI, and they'll be like, okay, I have power bar down here, I've got my battery slots over there, I've got my ammo bay here, I've got my upgrade slots over here, and they may do multiple tabs too. I'm not against doing multiple tabs because it's not too hard to program a button to switch GUIs. You go, okay, when you press this button, we want to go to GUI ID like 53 or something. And that, of course, would be done via the JSON system again. And 53 would actually not be a thing. It would be Sentry unique ID and then some number or some name ID. And it would be registered into the class or something. There would be some place we would store everything. But this will get us by, for the moment, it'll give us more slots. We'll have 2 rows. We do need to move these. So this will be plus 18 times x, and then this will be plus 18 times y. All the slots are about 18 in size. These need to go somewhere else though. So do the math real quick. 18 times 5 plus 10. Oh, that is actually weird. So this will be 120. Probably is off the screen. I don't really care if it is though. This works. And of course I want to make sure I separate this out. Player, inventory. We may end up with a bigger GUI eventually because we can actually do that. We don't have to worry about rendering any of the slots because that's already done for us. If we go to here, this renders our slots. Really nice having helper methods. If you can make them, make them. And we're good. We can launch. And then I can call this the end of an episode. Or work video, or I don't know what to still call these. We're still calling them dev videos because that's the easiest way to do them because that's what I'm doing. I'm doing dev work, but they're part dev work, part tutorial, part conversation, part future plan, part screwing around, part in the name of science, which is my favorite part. As I told a maker of Open Computers on Twitter yesterday, if laughing like a mad scientist, it has been a good day. Imagine that in a Russian accent, by the way. That's the context I'm getting at. I'm imagining this bushy-haired Ukrainian scientist who's doing weird experimentations and laughing maniacally, working on something as you see sparks going every other direction. And that's the thought process was behind that line. Kind of the imagery I actually want to use for the science mod I end up making, because I was originally going to update Mad Science, and after having a bit of turmoil with its developer over a problem with a game I was helping him develop, I decided I don't want to have anything to do with him per se on a day-to-day basis, although I'd be okay to work with him again because I do want to resolve all these stupid issues we have, but for the moment I've separated myself from him in case he decides to lash back towards me for things I actually haven't done. Because the whole issue we got into in the first place was I pointed out, like, I'm concerned about said issue, and he's like, don't be concerned about said issue, and actually don't be concerned about your job anymore. And I got fired. Why do you have 2? Why do you have 2? Why things? There's definitely a Stack Overflow. No? How in the bloody... There's 2 entities. Yep, there's an entity there. Entities aren't killing themselves. So what's supposed to happen is at any given point, if the base is null, the data is invalid, or the base is invalid, it's supposed to terminate. We're gonna actually restart and see if it will terminate itself. Those could be client entities. Okay, they're gone. Put my turd up here. Look at that big inventory we have now. Look at the lack of ammo we also have. We need 9mm ammo. We're gonna fire some elite ammo so it instantly kills everything. Did it kill something even though it didn't have ammo? And we're back to doing 2 entities. Tis not good. What is going on? You know what? We're spawning a Sentry's client side. That's what's happening. Okay, so we got this here. We do want Sentry data client side. We do not want a Sentry client side. So we're going to go is server, and we want to do that. By the way, if you spawn an entity client side, they have a tendency not to function because they don't get update ticks. There's no way to get rid of him either. He's real though, because you can see the renders. Apologies for that belch too. Been drinking Dr. Pepper. Okay. I need to check to see if this is going to kill something without ammo. What? Huh. Those rays are not at all firing in the right direction. We're like 90 degrees off. Tis need to be fixed. Hopefully we're in debug mode. Yeah, we're in debug mode. I can fix this. This is probably that 90-degree shift problem that I thought I could get rid of yesterday, and I didn't really mention it, but when we go to get the aim of an entity, not exactly the aim, because this is the aim right here, when we actually go to grab the offset position, I'm trying to find this code and it's kind of a little hard to find for some reason. It's here somewhere. There's chamber next round. Do fire, fire a weapon. Okay, where in the flip is this code? Okay, here we are. So it's right here. Okay, no, that didn't help at all. That actually is not what I need to fix. Okay, so our render rays are off by a negative number almost. Completely defeated our ray trace code. See, I mean, the gun is functioning properly, by the way, just in case you guys are thinking that this is actually the ray trace failing. It's actually the render failing. What's going on is that this render code is developed to be used by players. So if I actually pull my gun up, and actually I didn't mean to drop that, I hit the wrong key. So if I pull my gun up and I hit mine, it works perfectly for the player. That's what it's designed to run for. And it'll work in third person too for those who will be like, oh, but it doesn't work in third maybe. No, it works perfectly. What is happening is that this code is designed for entity living creatures to use, so like zombies and players. But it's not designed for the Sentry gun to use because the Sentry gun is almost a complete invert on the way it's aiming. We need a new. In order to fix this, I need to go grab the debug render code. So we're gonna actually do this real quick because it's a bit annoying to keep scrolling through code like that. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is where all this is coming from. Okay, I know a solution. What I was gonna do, and what I was saying is like, you know what you need to do is like go grab this code. I was gonna make a green ray trace and then make these match forcibly, but what's going on is I actually need to fix these things. So we have an aim vector, and we need to fix the aim vector, and the aim vector is crap. Like all of this is kind of crap, to be honest. So we have two options. I can use overrides, and I can just override this method and pass in the code, and that'll work, which is actually the more preferable way to do this. And then what I can do is I can just go pause, aim, point. Which, by the way, is target actually. And then we can get rid of this, move this up here. No, it doesn't really matter if we do that. Float, yaw, float, pitch. Technically, putting the yaw and pitch in would probably make this work. Getting entity position is good. That method works. This method technically works. These two methods do not actually work properly. These are the ones that are dependent on the entity utilizing its yaw and pitch properly. The Sentry guns fake that. They fake the whole I'm gonna do this versus that type of behavior. Okay, we need to pass the entity position in too, so we're gonna go pause, pause, entity pause. This does give us some more recyclable code, by the way, by doing it this way. So entity pause, aim, target, yaw, pitch. And then what we want to call from our Sentry gun, all the way down here, would be center, aim, dot to pause, aim point, rotation yaw, and rotation pitch. Because rotation yaw and pitch are not being captured properly from the entity, which is the reason why this is rotating crappily. It's assuming that whatever we're using is a player, and which means the rotation is probably being offset, or some kind of crap is happening that is causing it to utterly just fail. But we fixed our fire code by doing the same thing. We have our aim point and we have our aim, which is passed in here. Let me make sure we're, yeah, it's aim and then target this time. Down here it's target then aim. So this will work, and we'll call it after I get this fixed. Not much we've really done. We added more increased inventory, and we toyed with the debug code. Part of development, you get days where you just don't do much. But the good news is Sentry guns are not too far off. A couple more weeks they'll be done. Armory mod is almost there. I got a few more things to do with it, and it's functional. I gotta go make guns for it, which is gonna be annoying because my texture artist / modeler doesn't seem to want to do anything. He does like one model and he disappears, and the claim is he's got a job, but I know all he does is babysit people in a computer lab all day. That being said, I really shouldn't judge. He's got time or doesn't got time. It's oh well. At this point, I'm thinking about just hiring another artist. Unfortunately, though, I don't make enough money off this stuff. Figure something out, though. Maybe I find somebody who'll make models for $10 or $20. That's the range I kind of can afford per model. Unfortunately, that's not very good. The result may be I may just have to learn to model again. Actually, you know what? I could pop up Animator and probably do modeling in that. Oh, Taz, hold on. Can you behave for like 5 minutes? And I'll take you for a walk? That's my dog Taz in the background you can hear. When she wants something, she will beg for it. Error. Unexpected. Oh, because the Sentry was null. It's working. Not perfectly, but it's working. The bullet spawn code is not correct, which means we're going to have to force behavior of the bullet spawn code to make this function. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so let's feed you some ammo and see if you're going to kill something before we head off. Taz, shush. Boom, instant hit. I'm putting in like the high damage ammo now. The 9mm is one of the few guns that has multiple ammo types. The shotgun also has multiple ammo types. It's hard to tell because they all look like the same clip because I'm too lazy to make icons for test guns. But it is working. They are ray tracing properly. This is a ray trace based system, so this isn't like me grabbing the target and setting its HP. There is a ray trace that actually physically goes there, and that ray trace will eventually have an error margin on it. So you will have the ability to miss shots and completely fail. There will be a variety of different intelligence levels for the Sentry guns, and that will be upgradable. So you'll start off with a low-level computer in a Sentry, and what that literally would be is equivalent to a motion detector and a friend and foe system. And unfortunately with that, that means it doesn't understand how to really aim properly. So you'll get early versions of the guns will not be exactly the most performant. They'll still kill things. It's just you will have like 40% success rate. I'm not going to make it too low. I'll probably tie that into the difficulty settings. So like really hard, it'll actually be a lot lower. It's hard to though gauge difficulty settings properly, but I'll make it all configurable so server owners and modpack owners and stuff can do whatever. But we'll call it the end of the video so I can go walk my dog and do stuff.